Well, I am going to start. Hello, my name is Kay. I'm the founder of the Vegan Museum. We were called the National Vegetarian Museum for a few years. We haven't changed at all. We're exactly have the same mission that we had then, but it was because our history is vegetarian, just semantically, vegetarian covers both, where vegan doesn't really cover our history. But we got so many questions about why aren't you vegan, why are you vegetarian, and so we switched the name. Who here is a vegan? Good. And who here is a vegetarian? Oh, that's interesting. Okay, either a vegan or who here is on the path toward healthier eating? Okay, that's interesting. I will briefly tell you my story. This is very brief. I started eating healthier. It took me 5 years to go from eating healthier to becoming a vegetarian. And then it took me another 30 or 40 years to become a vegan. But in those first 5 years, so I started eating whole grains instead of white flour. I started eating maple syrup instead of sugar. In those first 5 years, I did not meet another vegetarian. That was back in, I don't know, maybe 1965. Did not meet another vegetarian, and I did a lot of traveling back then until I opened a vegetarian business in Chicago. So there was also no animal rights movement. You heard a little bit about the animals, but there was like no movement. There was no phrase animal rights that I had ever heard. The environmental movement was just starting up, I'd say, because there was an Earth Day. I think that started in 1970 or 71. But like I said, I was starting to eat healthier, and all of a sudden one day I realized, gosh, I haven't had meat for a week. And I said to myself, that's it, I'm not going to eat it anymore. And with just one or two exceptions, I did not eat meat again. So I went at my own pace. But it really doesn't have to take that long today. There are so many more good foods in the supermarkets. There's so many people to help you on your path. There's big movements. Vegetarians, instead of being made fun of, as we were back then, now we're more respected and people are trying to learn more about it. And so you can feel proud of yourself rather than feeling like an outsider, which I think strengthens us. I'm going to start today. By the way, if you have any questions as I'm talking, you can just interrupt me and ask your question. So the basil cheese recipe. So I picked two recipes that we don't need a stove for. The second recipe, one thing needed to be cooked a little bit, and I did it at home. So for the basil cheese, and you all have a recipe, I think, you soak the cashews. You can soak them for 30 minutes to an hour, or you can soak them overnight. And what? And hot water. And that softens them enough so that the end result is real creamy. So I had soaked these at home. And if you use a mixer, if you use a blender, especially if you have a high-speed blender, like I have a Vitamix at home, this will blend in half the time. But my blender weighs about twice as much as my food processor. So for that reason, I soaked these really good overnight, and because I brought the food processor. So 1 cup of cashews. And half a cup of basil, which is like 3/4 of an ounce if you're buying it. And I rinse these off at home. But you just strip them off the stems and discard the stems. And if little bits of the stem gets in, that's okay too. And after you get them wet, sometimes there's little black spots will appear, so I don't use that. one doesn't look good. So, okay. Now I'll just chop it a little bit before I put it in the food processor. Did anyone ever get dried basil? Don't. It tastes like tree bark. It is like the worst. I can't even imagine it. And the fresh is so delightful. So here's the basil. And a half a teaspoon of lemon zest. And I always do this before I squeeze a lemon because you'll get more juice out of it that way. So I soften it. And this is
room temperature then too?
Yes.
More juice out of it?
Yes. Yeah. And I'm just thinking, I don't think I ever refrigerate lemons. They're always at room temperature in my house. And I wash this at home also, even though it's organic. I rinse it off. Okay. And 4 teaspoons of lemon juice. This is a good little tool. And it captures the seeds. Yeah, see, there's... So, 4 teaspoons. This is 3. Four. And 2 teaspoons of olive oil. I try not to use oil. There are physicians that say that all oil that we've extracted, it's not good for us because oil turns rancid so quickly. And when you're buying it, it's already months old. It's been in storage. It's been on the store shelves. So I just try to, but I like it. So I just try to use as little as possible. And in my house, I have like a brush and a plate on the stove. And I just lightly, and I don't use coated pans. I use cast iron. So I just lightly brush the oil on. I never pour it. So at any rate, 2 teaspoons of olive oil. And if you don't like it as much as I do, you can just leave the olive oil out and add a little more water. A tablespoon.
There are a lot of different kinds of olive oil, so what do you recommend?
I only buy this brand. It's organic, it's extra virgin, which means it hasn't been processed too much, and it's from California, which I trust. And when things are from other countries, right or wrong, I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but I trust this country more.
Well, but starting this year, the state of Florida, the state of New York and the state of California have some law where there are 5 ingredients they cannot put in preserved foods because they're not good. And people told me those have been illegal in Europe for years.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know what they are, but I'm sure they're.
Oh, I'd be interested in knowing what they are.
Yeah, I just heard that on the radio. They didn't.
Uh-huh.
But
I don't think we do everything right, but I think because of freedom of speech and they're not going to lock you up if you say something you know that people in power don't like. I think when people say things, you can generally trust it. If a company says something and puts ingredients on it, like I said, rightly or wrongly. Okay, a tablespoon of nutritional yeast. This gives a cheesy flavor to things. 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt. And Kat back there is getting some samples ready for you. So we figured out first we were going to put all the samples at the end, and then I thought, well, but I need to prepare the table for the next recipe. So after this one, she'll pass out samples, and you can tell her if you want. So we've got a lot of food here today. You're going to be able to take some home with you, and you can tell her if you want a half a slice of bread or a whole slice of bread, and you're welcome to go back for seconds as well. And 3 tablespoons of water. Okay, that's it. I'm just going to blend it. A little more water. I guess this is taking a lot longer than the Vitamix.
What do you do with this? Maybe while that's running, you can.
Well, you can eat it on bread. Let's see if you can. You can eat it on bread. You can eat it on crackers. That's why I called it cheese, because the nutritional yeast gives it a cheesy flavor. And it's where else would you use a spread? Bread, crackers. Why not? I suppose you could dip vegetables into it. See if you like it. Then, okay. Yeah. Okay. So here it is. And Kat, what's the best way to do this? Should they go to the back, or?
I can pass them out, so we're gonna start with mac and cheese right now. And if you want any more, just let me know, we have so much.
So I'm going to start the brocamole. I somehow lost the serrano pepper, but that's okay because what we can pass out for samples we have already made in back. So I started with the broccoli, which I steamed at home so I wouldn't have to use a stove here. And, oh wait, where's the broccoli?
Right here, this back?
No, I thought I brought an extra bunch of it to show you how to chop it. Okay, you have the broccoli, and what's really easy is you can, instead of taking each branch of it and like cutting the broccoli off, you can just lay it and slice it diagonally, and that way you can get all these off. I do the same with the cilantro. I'll show you. You can just slice it diagonally, and it's a lot simpler. You get a lot less stems that way. But don't throw away the stems of the broccoli. Save them. You can peel them because they're very fibrous, but you can peel it and steam it a little bit, and they're very good eaten, even though they're not in this recipe. So I just cooked it with a little bit of water. And I think I said a 1/4 cup of water, and this is 2 stems of the broccoli. And that way all the water is absorbed. When you typically steam a vegetable and it has water left over that you throw away, you're throwing away a lot of the nutrients of the vegetable. So it's better to steam it with the exact amount of liquid that you need, and then you get all those nutrients. So, okay, so chop coarsely. Put these on. Okay. And 2 tablespoons of onion. I always peel and prepare onion the same way. I take a paring knife and I cut this out. But I'm just going to chop this off right now. But I normally do this. And that also helps peeling the onion. And notice I don't chop like this. I angle the knife. One, it's faster, and you're less likely to hurt yourself. And my fingers aren't sticking out. I'm putting them under my knuckles. So if I do have an accident, I'm just cutting my knuckle a little bit, not chopping the tip of my finger off. And when you angle it and hold the top down, again, you can chop a lot faster. So 2 tablespoons. half a teaspoon of salt. Two avocados. I think I will put this in here for now. So this could be for the avocados. This is a great tool for avocados. This serrated end can cut it. And then the smooth end, you just scoop it out.
I've never seen one of those.
Isn't that a great tool? I don't remember where I got it. If there's anything brown in here, I would throw it out, not put it in with the dish. Oh, that probably belongs here. I don't know that it matters. Okay. 2 tablespoons. Perfect. Okay, I'm just gonna sea salt avocados. Coarsely mash with the potato man. Okay, I'm gonna mash it, mix everything together, and then add the tomatoes and the cilantro. And red onion, by the way, tends to be a little sweeter than the white. Yeah, notice my eyes didn't tear or anything. I didn't even notice I was chopping an onion. With the serrano, when I have one, I remove the seeds. But if you like things real hot, then just leave the seeds in. Or if you like things milder, then use jalapeno instead of serrano. Then I'm going to mix in the onion and the broccoli. That looked a little like a lot of broccoli, so I just left a little out. If you like more, you know, you could use more. And okay, the tomato. I did need the gloves. For the tomato, I'm going to remove the inside because if you add it, it makes this a little too liquidy. But don't throw it away. Just eat them. They're delicious. Or make a tomato sauce. Sometimes with a tomato, it's best to use a bread knife. It's sometimes easier to cut it. Okay. And the last thing is this cilantro. I use a lot of cilantro. I love it. But it's really tedious to take the leaves off all the stems. So here's how I do it. I just slice the leaves off like that. So it's a fourth of a cup. That looks good. And then sometimes I'll throw the other half away, but when I'm in the mood, sometimes you're in the mood and then you can deal with the rest of them. Okay, fourth of a cup. And here we have brocamole. Are there any questions?
So the broccoli just gives you a little more fiber and a little less color, or not really? I mean,
Maybe a little less expensive, also less expensive than the avocados. And I don't know, I really don't pay attention to what nutrients are in which foods. I just figure if I eat enough variety and cook it right. So I don't know what nutrients broccoli has that are valuable to us. I know it's good for you, I just don't know exactly why.
What do you like to do with this? Put it on bread again, or
What's this?
what do you like to do with it? Put it on bread again,
Yeah,
chips?
yeah, bread, chips, crackers. Oh, another thing you could do is take tortillas. Those are whole grain. If you don't get the white, get the yellow corn tortillas. And I have a gas stove. I just heat them on an open fire. You stand there and watch it the whole time. It's just a minute or so on each side. And then put the guac on that. Delicious. And that's a meal. That's like a main dish.
Sometimes when I eat guacamole, we buy these small little carrots, and I zap the carrots so they're still crunchy but not hard crunchy, and I dip those in the guacamole.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Because that's more nutritious than the crackers.
Right. For sure. For sure. And you don't eat them till the box is gone.
So I always tell people, if you eat something that has calories and no nutritional value, it's like spending money for something like that.
Yeah. So, Kat, could you pass those out?